Welcome back. Still watching Business Morning on Sunrise Daily, right here on Channels Television. Let's do a little bit of funding issues, but this time we're not looking at it from the small businesses. Every time we talk about the small businesses, now let's talk about those banks, that are supposed to fund the small businesses. How are they coping at this time? That's the conversation we're going to have now, and we're going to have it with the Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of UCEE Microfinance Bank, Ms. Esther Adeola Balogun. She'll be coming to tell us the perspective of the banks. So every time we talk about small businesses, and we do know that interest rate now, well, is about 30%, real interest rate that is. So how are they coping? How are they, who are they giving the funds to? Can they afford to give the funds? And guess what? Even at a time like this, microfinance banks are still coming on board. I'm sure they have their own strategies. Let's have Ms. Esther Adeola Balogun join us now. Ms. Esther, good morning and thank you for your time.
Good morning, Ini.
So I know that your microfinance bank is a new one.
Yeah.
And one would have thought that the environment is so scary. Nobody would want to go into that environment at this time because microfinance banks are supposed to be funding small businesses. Absolutely. Small businesses, even the big businesses are getting hit. Yeah. So I don't know if the small businesses are surviving. Yeah. So you must know something that some other people do not know. But looking at the headwinds now, how is the operations of microfinance banks at this time?
All right, thank you very much, Ini. For microfinance banks at this time, just like you, to allude to your statement, it's a bit challenging because the businesses that we fund, the MSMEs, are also challenged because of the headwinds, high interest rates, unavailable funding, because of the cost of funds for microfinance banks. And, for microfinance banks today, the major challenge would be the cost of funds too, because they either fund, MSMEs, either via borrowed funds too, or customers, liability, shareholders' funds and all that. And we also know that they pay a price for those funds. And unfortunately, they would not have any choice than to pass the cost even to the customer. And so for microfinance banks at this time, I'd like to say, specifically for us in UC Microfinance Bank, what we have decided to do is just to, have a robust risk management framework that would also help us mitigate against the risk that comes with non-performing loans, for example, because at this time you'd also realize that the rate at which the rate of non-performing loans has also gone high. Customers, that's the MSMEs, are also finding it a bit challenging to pay back their loans. Part of also, the strategies that I think that I also know that we have also put in place, and I know that most microfinance are also financial advisory even for this MSME. So you're here telling the MSME what businesses in the economy or what sector of the economy should they focus on. Today, you're looking at, a lot of people today would rather fund consumer goods than, lifestyle today. So you're looking at an MSME who is focused on lifestyle, and you're saying, why don't you channel more of this funding into this part of the business? And that's part of the financial advisory that I think microfinance banks, people like us, have also deployed. And part of it is we also have a very good cybersecurity framework. And I know that what we are also doing in that regard is because a lot of us today, especially for UC, what we are trying to drive is the digital and the traditional. We are saying, okay, we want to use the tech and touch approach.
So before you go to the digital, I'm interested in something you said, which is microfinance banks now going beyond their scope to give financial advisory and all of that. And I'm thinking in my head, isn't that extra cost for the microfinance bank? Because you need to get an expert, who can actually do that, maybe create a unit, even if it's just a desk. Yes. That's an extra expenses for you. Yes. How do you put that into your books so it doesn't eat off your profits that is so slim already? All right,
thank you very much. So part of it is microfinance banks, and what we have also done is to create like a forum for MSMEs. And because some of us have been in the industry, and from research, from interaction with most of these MSMEs. You'd also look out for, thought out leaders in the industry that that would also engage this MSME. So when you have this forum, you have people in that forum who are so experienced, and the costs may not be as significant as you think it should be in that regard. Because we also deal with people at the bottom of the pyramid, you also do not want to charge them so much, for part of this advice. And don't forget, the framework of microfinance banking, Ab Initio, has financial advisory as part of the framework that we are so supposed to, give to these customers. So it is not just savings and loans. So financial advisory, and I think at this time, what we are doing at this time is, okay, so we do a little bit of financial advisory to also educate the customers before you go out to lend to the customers and to, ask the customers to engage in the financial solutions that you have for them.
So you were talking about the digital space now, but that's... competition is stiff there. Yeah. People have become so lazy. You want to do everything on your phone and all of that. So it's obviously a stiff competition when it comes to the digital space. You have the digital banks who are making it easy and, creating all kinds of incentive. So that's more work for microfinance banks. Okay, so
I'd like to also state that, CBN has come out categorically to say that for every you are either having a microfinance bank license or you have a microfinance bank license. So if you want to drive your business, saying, I want to use digital to drive the microfinance, it doesn't make you a digital microfinance bank. And to allude to your statement, today in Nigeria today, you have an average Nigerian wants to do business with ease. Wants to go out of, doesn't want to go out of his way to do business with you. I want to sit in the comfort of my home, in the comfort of my business place to do business. And so everybody, the space is big, so everybody would have to engage. And I also like to say that we also do partnerships, with digital, and we have digital partnerships with digital innovators. And so for microfinance banks today, because of the costs of technology, so you partner with a digital company or with a digital innovative organization that can also help drive these businesses. And before you know it, the cost is shared between us and the partner. And everybody's happy. It's a win-win situation for all of us.
I hear shared risks. I think that's the name of the game at this time.
We share the risk, we share the profits, and the income that comes along with it.
But you can't share the bad debts.
Okay. All right. So because the microfinance banks are let me say, professionals around the lending space. So they take more of the risk when it comes to the bad debt. And that was why I mentioned earlier that for microfinance banks today, every microfinance bank, just like you see, must have a robust risk assessment criteria, risk management framework that would also help you drive that process. Now the partner has his own technology he wants to sell to you. So you sit back as a microfinance bank, and that's what we do. We sit back as a microfinance bank to develop the risk assessment criteria to say, okay, so this is the risk management framework we want to use in driving this. All we just need from the partner is just the technology to do that.
So, you seem to have calculated all of that.
Absolutely.
Into it at a time like
calculated
this.
It, and it goes along with the cost of funding that we share.
I'm going to, I hope it's not like putting you on the spot, but the issue of charges with banks, not just the microfinance banks, it's building up. It's a competition that is building up. And I think people are just tired of, talking about it. But, how do I know when I'm being cheated? So sometimes you just get an alert and they tell you you've been charged this for VAT, you've been charged this for maintenance, so many charges. And I know that the microfinance bank also does that. So help us to understand how consumers or customers can protect their rights or know their rights to start with.
All right, I'd also mention that I think with the microfinance bank, because we deal with a lot of people at the bottom of the pyramid, there's a bit of openness. Let me not say a bit of, you don't have a choice as a microfinance bank than to be open and transparent with your customers. Today, for every transaction we do, there's a contractual agreement between you and the customer. And I would also advise customers read those terms and conditions. All the terms and conditions, whatever charges, anybody, I mean, any bank would charge you must be clearly stated in the terms and conditions following the following the guidelines of the Central Bank of Nigeria. So for us in the microfinance bank space, and I will say categorically for us in UC, the terms and conditions are clearly stated. There's transparency, there's integrity. And so if we're charging you what you do not find in the offer of agreement, then you come up and discuss it. And that's why you have the FCPC that are coming out to say, no, we want to protect customers from unwarranted, from being exploited. And I think that's where the customer has a solace today to say, okay, so if a bank charges me, then I have a place to run to. But I can tell you categorically, for us, we are very
everybody
transparent.
Says that's about
transparent. We are
everybody says that's about
transparent. And you just walk around and check microfinance banks today. You see that you have it, because especially when you have your products online, just like we do in UC, you have your products on the digital space. All the charges are spelled out and are properly explained in that space. So
no hidden print.
No hidden print. No hidden print, I can assure you. No hidden print.
All right, so I think as parting words, for me, one interesting thing is, the advisory part, especially for small businesses, and how you help them to focus on what's more important at this time. Perhaps, what are some of those safe sectors that small businesses could look at this time, looking at our reality in Nigeria?
All right, so I'd like to say that for small businesses today, like I mentioned earlier, consumer goods, fast-moving consumer goods. Today, as in, you would rather feed your stomach than think of, okay, so what am I going to wear? That's what everybody, and if you look at the statistics today, food inflation has gone up. And so you see a lot of people spending so much money on food. So that's one of the sector. And another sector that I think is also thriving today is education. Everybody wants to be educated. Everybody wants to go to school. And those are some of the sectors that we're looking at as a microfinance bank to also fund. And lastly, I also like to mention that. Sectors that you put in your money, you put in your business, and you get back your returns like immediately. That's another place where businesses should also be focusing on today.
I thought you mentioned energy. Yes, that's a major one.
Oh yeah, that's another renewable
energy.
Now the cost of energy today has gone up, and so businesses today would look for alternative source of energy, and renewable energy is also another place where we need to also focus on today.
All right, thank you so much. I'm sure small businesses are listening, and one or two people say, oh, I didn't think of that. Perhaps I can get a small loan and get my money out. But thank you so much, Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of UC. I used to call it UCEE, but you say it's UC.
UC Microfinance Bank.
And for having the guts to get into the space at this not so friendly time, Ms. Esther Adeola Balogun.
Thank you very much, Ini, for having me.
Great, yeah. Bye-bye.